is the Violet Arc Chaser Bloodmage. It's not the first build I wanted to make a guide on this league, but it's actually not that complex of a build, so it's a lot easier to explain. And it also just looks a lot flashier, so people seem more interested in this build anyways. Disclaimer though, I do think that at the very least, I wouldn't play it without the Techrod Undying Hate jewel, which is like 9 divs. But not because this build fails to function without it, but rather you just lose a lot of defense without it, and I just wouldn't recommend playing Flicker builds without it. But it's not like you need it. So the basic mechanic for the Flicker is it's quite simple. All you do is you take Heidi's Mercy on Arc, and all it does is prevent Arc from killing enemies. And then as the Arc hits a bunch of enemies for huge damage, critting them, we are left with like a chain of just 1 HP targets, while also proccing cast on crit. And because there are so many 1 HP targets, the cast on crit lightning warp will almost always have a valid target to teleport to, following the low HP targets that Arc leaves behind. Hence the name of this build. And then to further boost that, we take a bunch of nodes on the tree to give us a lot of increased damage against full life targets, along with ambush to double our crit chance against them as well. So we have these guaranteed crits on Arc with huge damage for that uh, guaranteed like proc. And then on top of that, we take chain for just more chaining, and then we take a lot of projectile speed so that the flicker becomes way faster. And then on top of that, because we are lightning warping all the time to enemies, every time lightning warp successfully completes, it actually creates a infusion that we will automatically pick up because we're just warping to them. And those lightning infusions will be used to power the next arc to do triple damage and chain more times. So we just have permanently infused arcs to throw around everywhere as we just flicker and kill everything. And then to add those purple explosion effects to our flickering, we further take Black Flame Covenant with a cast on Elemental Ailment Living Bomb. And then in order to proc cast on Ailment, we're going to use Freeze by taking the Call of the Brotherhood Topaz Ring to convert all our lightning to cold damage, causing our arc to freeze all the enemies, giving us a bunch of procs on Living Bomb as well. And then to like have more explosions, we just add on like overabundance so that there's 2 living bombs at a time on enemies that can be proc for just tons of explosions. This kind of helps with mapping. It's more useful for single target, but what's most important here is that it just looks really cool, like way cooler than just normal flickering with lightning warp. That it just I just can't imagine playing without it anymore. So yeah, technically I guess you don't need it, but it is a huge loss, a huge aura loss if you don't have it. There is also the matter of bossing. And the way I went about bossing is to just put all the bossing power into my second weapon set. Uh, so since cast on crit has already been taken for lightning warp, I have to rely on the living bomb that we have on cast on ailment, and then also elemental invocation to like output a bunch of damage. So the way I go about that is to capitalize on ignite for meta energy build to spam a bunch of living bombs and comets on the enemy. And the skill I use for that is Ember Fusillade. This just really good skill, does lots of target damage and just hits for a lot. And also Aura Storms to be able to empower the Ember Fusillade for just a little bit like extra damage. On the tree as well, I take like quite a bit of ignite magnitude, ailment magnitude type nodes to be able to get that like high energy buildup using ignite. Because the energy you gain for these skills, based on Ignite, is based on the damage the Ignite would have done. So scaling Ignite duration and magnitude are like the two vectors for maximizing your Ignite damage, which hence maximizes your meta skill energy gain. And then because we're using Living Bomb for ailment, we we generate a bunch of fire infusions when they detonate. And these fire infusions can be used on the comet to give them to create these fire infused comets to do even more damage to your standard comet. So we're just hitting them with tons of these fire infused comets, Living Bomb and infused slots, and it melts bosses pretty well. To further add on to that, we also take Overwhelming Presence. This lowers the ailment threshold, which means our ignites will ignite for even more damage, which means more mana energy, of course. And then we also take Despair to just curse them, make them take more chaos damage, because our ignite damage is coming from our chaos damage thanks to Black Flame Covenant. So, I mean, there's a bunch of ways you can go about doing bossing with Bloodmage. Like, there's just so many ways you can delete bosses, but I think this way I like, and it just fit really nicely into this build. So let's talk about Bloodmage's role in this build, which is like everything. So with a build like this, where you're just proccing warps and living bombs everywhere, you're gonna need some way to sustain like that resource expenditure. And I mean, Bloodmage is just the best at just self-sustaining their spells with the spell leech, and then with like a series like gloves, you can just instantly recover all the cost of those spells by when you hit the enemies. And then on top of that, Bloodmage's innate like Sanguimancy perk is just pretty good. The life remnants, you pick up several of them naturally just when you warp around. So yeah, Bloodmage is just amazing for sustaining this. Of course, with this, you have to make your spells cost life instead of mana, otherwise you can't sustain it. So there's like two ways to do that. One, just go Blood Magic, either with the helmet or just taking it on the tree. But the way I went about sustaining spells is to just run life tap on every single spell. Just life tap everything. There's no limit to how many sport gems you can put on like across your spells. So this is what I went for. I think it's worth not having to take Blood Magic. And additionally, if you do this method, you still have a mana pool. And if you have a mana pool, you can use Mana Tempest. And Mana Tempest is huge in this build because it makes it so that when you throw your arc, it's going to first of all, do like 100% gain-ass lightning damage when it initially hits, but also it's going to split to 4 additional targets. So you just get like just 5x number of procs if you throw this out while you're sitting in your Mana Tempest. And it only matters that it procs for the first hit. After that, it doesn't matter. You already have 5 arcs going out. And then of course you can also just run like support gems like Zenith and whatever that are mana dependent when you have a mana pool like this. To go into a little further detail about the Sanguine Tides node, so first off, it like gives you life flasks back after spending life, and this actually works with increased charges gained. So if you have like a lot of increased charges, then everything you do will just instantly recover all your life loss back. So you functionally have like infinite life loss usage. No matter what you do, everything you do will just pay for it for your own life loss back. And then, secondly, you can equip 2 life flasks using this probably broken tech that should be patched out. Using the Wastegate Heavy Belt, which lets you equip life or mana flask on either slot, you just put this on, equip whatever flask you want on those slots, and then you just take it off. and then it just keeps the flask on both ends. This means that you can only use your first flask because that's it's your default flask, but you can't use the second flask. However, the second aspect of Sanguine Tides, which is gain percent, which is like when the flask is full, gain a percent of the charges consumed as physical damage. This will kick in on your second flask, and this second flask also refills the same way the first flask refills from the Sanguine Tides. So watch, I'll just so the second flask is not full, and then when we next hit an enemy, it's going to consume 40% of those charges to give us like roughly 50% damage gained as extra fizz. The two flasks you want is so for the second flask you want like just increased charges, and then for the first flask you want instant recovery and increased charges gained, so that you just have like functionally infinite life flasks. So yeah, that's I'm gonna talk a little bit more about this Sanguine Tide nodes in my other build guide, but I did want to mention it here. It is like actually such a broken node in my opinion. So as for the rest of the passive tree, it's nothing too extraordinary. It's mostly just ES here, ES here, ES here, and then like crit chance here, crit chance here, uh, crit chance up here, crit chance over here, crit damage over there. Here's typical like Bloodmage setup with some minor tweaks. Of course, we have the Black Flame Covenant here. We have some projectile speed for our arc, and then we have like meta energy because we are using two like element invocation, cast on ailment, and cast on crit. So yeah, the meta stuff here is good. Magical reservation efficiency here is basically a must-have because we wouldn't be able to use all those meta skills without reducing their cost with just our 60 spirit amulet, and then yeah, just some more meta energy and chance. Of course, there's also the stuff related to each skill, each weapon set. So for the arc weapon set, we want like AOE for our explosions and lightning wars. We want projectile speed so that our arc travels faster, and then we want like the big extra damage against full life targets. And then for the other weapon set, we just want like some ailment ignite based nodes, like ignite ability, ignite, and then profane commander, because we actually will need a little bit more spirit just to fit everything in to that weapon set. And then just a little bit more crit damage here, and then like, invocate crit damage here. This is a ton of like 70% increase crit damage from two nodes. And then of course like I guess it's not really necessary, but it's nice to have like this reduced duration for those Ember Fuse slots to trigger faster. And then of course the big like elephant in the room, we got the Tech Rod Undying Hate. This gives us access to this really balanced node here that lets every spell pay for itself in life. And then if you combine that with a non-zero amount of increased life regen, then you have like actually just infinite spell casting, as it just ramps up the amount of life you get after you cast each spell. But actually, that's not the real reason this is here. The life remnants and the leech is going to be more than sufficient to sustain your spells. This is actually more important for the ES recovery, the defensive layer of this build, because taking this with Zealot's Oath means that we just have like thousands of energy shield regen per second at a time. It's actually completely ridiculous. And then rather than just pathing for Zealot's Oath, we just save like 6 tree points by grabbing a From Nothing diamond. I don't know if what I would sacrifice if I were to path this normally, but I mean this From Nothing, I don't think it's that expensive, so I think it's just fine just to use it, just to grab Zealot's Oath for 6 less tree nodes. But yeah, that's skill tree, nothing crazy, just Bloodmage stuff, and then the stuff related to those weapon sets. And then now for the skill gems themselves. So there is some specifics to how you set these up. for weapon sets, and then also like the support gems in them. So the first one I'll just talk about is Mana Tempest. You just put this on both weapon sets. It's useful for Arc for its splitting capability, and then it's useful for just giving you damage for bossing as well. So you take this, you put life tap of course, and then just cooldown's nice. You could use it more. Cost is nice, cast speed's nice. Oh, and you want to try to make this hit level 30. Every 10 levels, Mana Tempest has a huge spike where it will split into one additional enemy every 10 levels. So if I took this Lightning Mastery off and it becomes level 29, then it becomes 3 instead of 4. So try to get your Mana Tempest to hit level 30, but if not, there's no point in making it go much higher than 20. Next is Arc. Arc is only used in set 1 for Flickering. It has, of course, it has the one I have has Atuli's Bloodletting, which is the broken version of Life Tap, where you gain damage based on its cost. You don't actually need this. I'm pretty sure I'll show you later how budget this build can get, but this is just if you were to put it somewhere, I think Arc is like the good place to put it. Highest Mercy, of course, fundamental to the build, and then like Chain, projectile speed for that increased flicker speed, and then Ambush. In weapon set 1 as well, we run Cast on Crit and Cast on Elemental Ailment. So these are the two meta skills we run for weapon set. Now normally this would cost like 190 spirit, because Cast on Crit is like gets like 10% reservation efficiency from its quality, and then Cast on Elemental Ailment gets none. So that node here, 20% increase efficiency, reservation efficiency for meta skills. That is basically what makes it possible to have both of these at once with just 60 additional spirit. So that's weapon set 1. It's just Arc and Mana Tempest, and then you just flicker and explode everything off that. Weapon set 2 is Ember Fusillade with Orb of Storms. So Ember Fusillade, it's our primary way of igniting. We wanted to crit a lot, we wanted to do more damage, we wanted to fire more frequently, and Silence Temper just makes it so that we're guaranteed like maximum Ember Fusillade shards after like five casts. So it's nothing too crazy here. And then Aura Storms. So the Sapling has a few uses. You can use this to help you clear if you don't feel like flickering for some reason. You just want to like clear while walking. Then you can use Orb of Storms to do that with Ember Fusillade. This is something I'll get into more on my other build, but Orb of Storms triggers after every spell cast, and Ember Fusillade is like the fastest cast spell in the game. So if you use Orb of Storms with Ember Fusillade, you'll just like melt through packs of enemies. On top of that, if you use Mana Tempest as well, then it will just completely shred packs of enemies. But generally, the way I use Orb of Storms is to just give myself lightning infusions, because it drops an infusion once its duration is over, or once all procs of Orb of Storms is gone through, which is the 6 bolts. And that will boost the Ember Fusillade for the boss. Of course, in this weapon set, I also run Despair, because that's, just weakens their chaos resistance, so that our chaos damage Ember Fusillade can ignite them even more. And then we run these 3 meta skills. So we run Cast on Elemental Ailment, which is the Living Bomb, which is carried over in the last weapon set as well. So this is used in both weapon sets, with the addition of Elemental Invocation Comment, so that we can use that Ignite to proc a bunch of comments as well. I think there's a lot of flexibility to how you can set up the support gems beyond just Light Tap and the actual skill. I think, I definitely would run Boundless Energy, but beyond that, I think the rest is an option. Like this, I just like the explosions being bigger. That's just not necessary. And then I just like seeing a ton of comments, but I think you can do like a Zenith or something else here. And then I guess, this could be anything else as well. I think this helps with having more frequent comments, but I'm not really sure that there's anything else here. And then Overwhelming Presence has a huge role in this for the bossing, because it just makes your ignites hit for more, which means more energy, which means you have more comments and more living bombs. But that's the boss focus. And now let's talk a little bit about the gearing. So I'll talk a little bit about what I have, and then I'll talk a little bit about how to make this more budget friendly. So for gearing, the necessary things are, I think, yeah, a series for that instant leech. The call the Brotherhood Topaz ring so that your arcs freeze for that cast an ailment procs while mapping, and then you need 60 spirit on somehow. I have all of it on my amulet, 60 spirit on my amulet, but you do need 60 spirit to equip all the meta skills that I mentioned. And then after that, the like helmet, the robe, the boots, the very standard. Just get resistance cap to get as much ES as you can fit, and there's not that more about that. Oh, and life. Get as much life as you can as well. So that means just more spell usage. More life is always good for these kind of like lifespan builds. Even though you recover all your life back, having more means you can cast more spells simultaneously before the recovery kicks in. Uh, a little bit more about the amulet. It also has +3 levels to spell skills. So and life as well. This is a pretty insane amulet. What you really just need is spirit and levels of spell skills, which is not cheap either. But you there's a cheaper alternative that I'll talk about later. And then as for the wand and focus, so yeah, one thing you might notice is how this focus is the same on both. You can lock if you only want to use one wand or one focus across both your weapon sets. You can just right click this button here on the weapon set, and it will lock that item to both weapon sets. So both weapon sets will be using this focus. I do use two wands, so each one for doing something a little different for each weapon set. So I'll start talking about that. So for the arc weapon set, you just want level lightning skills with crit damage and some increased damage. So this is a pretty good one. It's got +5 levels to all lightning spell skills. It got some crit damage bonus, cast speed's low nice, and then like some gain ass lightning and increase spell damage. The most important is the plus levels, of course, followed by I think generic spell damage and crit damage. The 100% increased lightning damage is actually not that great because all of the lightning damage is being converted into cold. I think that increased lightning damage only boosts the amount I gain from the gain as lightning, but generally, yeah, just some generic spell damage, like either spells with cost life or just spell damage straight up, and level stall lightning spell skills, and yeah, crit damage. Cast speed doesn't matter. You're not casting that many arcs very quickly. It doesn't matter. And then as for their second weapon set, we want level of all spell skills instead of one particular type because in this weapon set we are using like Orb of Storms, which is a lightning spell. We're using Ember Fusillade, which is a fire spell, and we're using Comets, which is a cold spell. And they all contribute quite a lot to the damage. So yeah, you're gonna want like generic levels instead. And then you also want crit chance instead of crit damage. Unlike weapon set 1, where you only need to hit 50% crit chance before ambush doubles it to 100, this one we're not using ambush. We're trying to go for like consistent sustained damage. So crit chance is a lot more valuable here. And the cast speed is also more valuable here because you want it for the Ember Fusillade to just come out a lot more quickly. And then as for the focus, so I think in a perfect world, I would have like uh, crit damage bone for the first weapon set, and then a crit chance one for this weapon set, with more damage on the first one, and then like cast speed on the second one. But I think I can settle for just using a good focus for both. This one has like crit chance, which is important, level spell skills, which is important, generic increase to spell damage, cast speed, and then this one also hit the desecrate for AoE. But I think the most important stuff here is the increased spell damage, level of spell skills, crit chance, and cast speed. Those four lines are what you're looking for in a focus. Of course, that's something like this can be kind of pricey, but we can always work with less. And then as for like the flask, I talked about them. One of them you want is instant recovery with increased charges gained, and then the other one you just want increased charges so that we can min max the usage of our really nice OP, OP node here. Okay, so let's talk about how to make this build a little bit more budget friendly. So to start, I think the POEs is not really needed. It's really good, like look at the damage gains, but from my experience, I don't think you need it. You could just put life path here instead. So that's like minus 9 divs. Secondly, instead of taking a 60 spirit plus level spell skills, which is like another like 7 to 10 divines, we could just take Beacon of Aziz for some spirit, not as much, and crit chance ignore elements. However, if you take Beacon of Aziz, you're going to have to sacrifice. Well, I didn't want to take dexterity. Shoot. Hold on, 3 seconds. Dexterity. Okay. If you take Beacon of Aziz, then you're going to have to give up the cast on element of ailment in your warping weapon set. You're going to have to settle for just using cast on Create Lightning Warp. And then in weapon set 2, you're going to have to give up Overwhelming Presence so that you can run Elemental Invocation and cast melee. So, yeah, I think this is still fine, but it's definitely, it'll feel a little bit worse. And then the third thing is how good of a wand do you actually need for this build to work? I would say you shouldn't need to spend more than 1 divine on both your wand and focus combined. I'll just show you like generally what you kind of want. So if you want a wand that has like perchance, if you want a wand with level all spell skills, around 3, around 5 here, and then like spell damage. I think this is all I would. I'm gonna ask for cast speed. I don't think I need cast speed though. I'll just ditch cast speed. 90. What does this cost? Oh, for spells. What would this cost? So this is a 1 Exalt wand. I think I can go for a little bit more break. Let me get some cast speed. 20 cast speed here. Okay, 30 Exalt wand. We'll go for a 30 Exalt.
It's yours.
So 30 Exalt wand, and then we'll go take a we'll do the same thing but for the focus. The focus you're gonna have to be a little bit more restricted on. So spell damage, we want like 80 is probably good enough. Level of all spell skills. This is 3, and then like critical hit chance. This is gonna be critical hit chance for spells. Another 45, I think. Yeah, another like 30 exalt item is good enough. So yeah, you're not gonna. This is like not even half a divine, to be honest. What I'm spending here. And then of course you're gonna need sufficient dexterity or attributes. I am going to have to. Yeah, this does have some attribute requirement to it, where you need enough to cast dexterity for element invocation. You're gonna need to have those in for everything else, of course. So now we have our basic setup. Cast and crit on weapon set 1, and then the invocation and ailment on weapon set 2. So with this setup, I think we can just do like a 5 mod map pretty comfortably. So if I go to my, I'm actually just gonna demonstrate this right now. I'm just gonna take like some random knife. Yeah, we'll just like slam this. So yeah, I just randomly slammed a map, and let's just see how it feels. That's so steep. This is a nice, simple, open map. So we'll see how this performs without artilleries. It's gonna have a 1 exalt amulet and then like half a divine, 1 focus. I'm not gonna bother sacrificing everything else because we can imagine having less ES. I do want to show how this looks with and without tech prot though, so we'll start with how it looks without. So yeah, I think we're flickering like on it. Pretty well, I'd say with this. I'd say we're doing pretty well. Okay, we're doing pretty well with like what we have here. I want to go back. Oh, and then yeah, Ore Source is very nice for just finishing off like 1 HP targets that you fail to kill. Okay. Hopefully we can go back now. Now I want to show like I did not have to go back. Now I want to show what happens when you take off this streak. This is a huge loss to our defense. We're gonna start like becoming almost dead all the times. If we get hit, we will get hit every now and then. It will happen, and it's gonna take like forever for the. Oh, you might have noticed the comments coming down. It's probably because comments are indication didn't really make any sense. But our ES is slowly going down, and it's not going back up unless that time we hit like a checkpoint. But yeah, your ES is just slowly gonna get worn down, and I tripped. I think I just screwed it. Yeah, I think this is definitely a little scarier with it's not like our ES is not coming back. It's taking we have to wait for quite a while. I think if you don't have tech prot, you're gonna be dealing with then okay, actually if you don't have tech prot, you have to take off Celescope because you can't even get ES regen if you take Celescope. So without tech prot, you have to take this off. And you also are probably gonna have to take some kind of like ES recharge on the tree as well. But of course it doesn't that's what Savannah does. It doesn't affect our actual like flickering. It's just the tech rod is super crucial to survive. So now you've seen how it feels on a budget. So if you want to like just get into it right away and you already have a Bloodmage, then go ahead. If you want to level for one, go ahead. Just know that this is pretty important. So now I'm going to showcase what the build actually feels like with all the good stuff. So our 60 Spirit, low spell skill amulet, we got good wands, good focus, we have Achilles bloodletting, and of course we have Prod here. So we're going to run 6-mod map. I believe there's no modifier we must avoid. I think we can run all mods. I just usually just random slam like all my maps and just run whatever. Perhaps you might want to avoid something that has a combination of both ailment threshold and LE resist. Unless you're running Beacon of Disease, then LE resist doesn't even matter. I guess you really can't just run anything. Maybe just something that's super rippy, that's like multi-proj, elemental weakness, increased damage, all that stuff. Maybe that might be a little too scary, but you can probably run like almost anything. So this one's got like more life, reduced recovery, increased speed, and it's got map boss, breach, ritual, plus level. I refuse to run Delirium because it just looks so disgusting. I just never will run it ever again. So, yeah, you can see for yourself how the gameplay feels. So, yeah, in general, all you do is just Mana Tempest, Arc, Mana Tempest, Arc, Mana Tempest, Arc. Yeah, we are just gonna destroy it. Like, it just. Now you want to go and clear all the rares. There's also an alternative play method, so you can just go with the boss setup, which is just double Order Storms and then Ember Fuselage. This is if you just want to turn off a Flickering, you can always just switch to Ember Fuselage. Start the breach as well. So yeah, I mean this is very good, but we're here to Flicker, so let's go back to doing that. Feels we have really good Flicker and we have an off switch, which is pretty rare for a Flicker build. Physicals generally don't have an off switch, which just like are at the mercy of when it wants to stop. Let's stop doing that breach. It's not worth our experiment on it. Let's just flicker to the boss. I guess we should look at how the ritual works. Oh, by the way, for the comments, I am holding down a button to use the element notification. I think I have it bound. I have it bound to shift, so I just hold shift and it just spams comments. That's available. I think for this one, I'll just use the I'll use the Order Storm setup, but you can always just you could look here for this as well if you want. It is just your option. You have options for this one. You can either flicker or you can not flicker. Flicker or jump. But yeah, for traversing maps, always flicker so far. And it usually will one-shot just rares as it passes through them. I think we're almost at the boss. Oh yeah, okay. So for the boss, you want to use, double Order Storms, then like Ember Fuselage, then you just Mana Tempest, and they just get like absolutely destroyed. Oh, I actually forgot to use my curse here, I think. That's kind of a blunder by me. But I think you're doing fine against bosses and maps. You're chilling. Oh, and just a bonus clip here, just tier 3 Kingdom Mist to see how this does against like Pinnacle bosses. Generally, you just do double Order Storms and then you just charge up an Ember Fuselage and you just fire at him with Mana Tempest. And you can also you can start the fight by ramping up your Tech Rod life regen with this, but I don't think that's what it is. So yeah, we're just gonna walk up to him and then just let all bring him. It's good. We can do bosses for anyone who's stealth.
A cute trick, but a stall at best.
Now that I think about it, it might be worthwhile to use a Tuli on one of the bossing skills instead of art. Bossing's good. I think that's what I wanted to show you. Have fun with the build. I don't know if any of these are